Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of The Great Ruler Season 2 Part 7 based on novel. So let's start. We have a deal. The bald old man with tattered black robe directed his muddy eyes towards Mu Chen. Yes. Mu Chen heavily nodded his head and, shortly after, he smiled. Even if it's dangerous, I doubt that senior would kill me in a move, right? You won't die. At most, you would just lie on your bed for few months. The bald old man hoarsely smiled as he extended his skinny hands out and rubbed his bald head. Mu Chen's smile stiffed. Shortly after, he helplessly inhaled a mouthful of air. No matter what, since he had accepted the terms, then even if he crossed mountains of daggers or seas of flames, he had to give it a try. Can you do it? The nine netherbird secretly asked with concern in its eyes. I'll give it a try. Mu Chen also didn't have a huge amount of confidence. This bald old man that was before him was definitely the most fearsome person he had ever seen. It's to the point that he was even stronger than the White Dragon Sovereign. Later on, I will secretly help you, the nine netherbird said in Mu Chen's heart. After all, Mu Chen was helping the nine netherbird refine the divine lightning bead and, henceforth, encountered this trouble. When Mu Chen heard what the nine netherbird said, he did not reply. The bald old man hoarsely smiled as he swept his skinny hands and a streak of light flew out, shrouding the nine netherbird. No matter how much it tried to struggle, the nine netherbird couldn't break free. Small nine netherbird, watch from the side. The bald old man smiled while narrowing his eyes. The nine netherbird struggled for a period of time, but seeing that it wasn't very effective, the nine netherbird could only stare at the bald old man viciously and said, if anything happens to him, I definitely won't let you off. Even if I can't best you right now, that doesn't mean that I can't in the future. The bald old man smiled. Nine netherbird, you still have a long way to go. Even when you manage to successfully evolve and enter into the divine beast record, you're still nothing. Are you prepared? When the old man finished speaking, he stared at Mu Chen. Mu Chen deeply inhaled a mouthful of air as his figure moved and retreated. Thereafter, he stood on the horizon and said with a solemn voice, Senior, please grant me your teachings. A majestic spiritual energy rippled out of his body as the pitch-black flames looked similar to black smoke, soared up into the horizon and could be seen clearly within 100 miles. His spiritual energy has merged with the nine nether flames. The bald old man stared at the surrounding blazing spiritual energy as a trace of astonishment flashed through his eyes. He waved his sleeve and his skinny hands extended out and lightly clenched. Boom! An indescribable pressure swept out from his body. Under this demeanor, the entire space looked as though it had trembled as a deep cry resounded. Rumble! A huge flowing lightning river was suddenly soaring over this plain and was absorbed by the bald old man. Thereafter, it looked similar to a silver dragon as it spiraled above his head. Mu Chen's face slightly changed at the sight of this. His heart trembled. The fearsome lightning energy in the lightning river was sufficient to crush mountains. However, it was easily lifted by this bald old man. This strength was, indeed, indescribable. Boom! The bald old man's huge hand waved, the lightning river instantly soared into the horizon and, as it issued a rumbling sound, it rippled in this space. The lightning surged like an electric dragon, and with an unparalleled demeanor, it headed towards Mu Chen with an irresistible manner. Mu Chen raised his head and traces of astonishment were shown within his eyes as he looked at the lightning river that was charging at him. He could clearly sense that the space around him was sealed at this moment. There was no possibility that he could avoid this fearsome offense. This bald old man was clearly not intending to go easy on Mu Chen. Mu Chen clenched his teeth as both of his palms came together. The veins on his arm twitched and, shortly after, a vicious look appeared within his eyes. Since he couldn't escape, then he could only go all out. Boom! The violent spiritual energy instantly poured out of Mu Chen's body without any restraints. He suddenly sat down in the air and both of his hands were forming signs at lightning speed. There was the sound of an ancient bell ringing on this horizon. As the black lights came together, a huge nine-layered pagoda appeared and shrouded Mu Chen within. Among all of Mu Chen's methods, the defense of the nine-layered pagoda was clearly the most fearsome. If he wanted to withstand the horrifying attack of the bald old man, the only thing he could do was to rely on the nine-layered pagoda. This is. The bald old man raised his head and stared at the huge nine-layered pagoda up in the sky. His brows slightly knitted together as his muddy eyes flashed as thoughts crossed his mind. Boom! The lightning river did not have the slightest pause when the nine-layered pagoda appeared. As the lightning river surged, in the next instant, it heavily clashed against the nine-layered pagoda with undeniable pressure. Bang! Faced with such a fearsome impact, the nine-layered pagoda instantly trembled violently. As the lightning river streaked past, fine tiny cracks appeared on the surface of the nine-layered pagoda. The attack of the bald old man was, indeed, way too frightening. As the nine-layered pagoda shrouded Mu Chen, his face instantly flashed with a pale color. He never thought that his strongest defense was actually so frail under an attack of the bald old man. He raised his head as the cracks on the surface of the nine-layered pagoda slowly spread out. As the lightning river continued to emit a silvery light that was dripping down, it caused a deep thunderous roar that resounded within the nine-layered pagoda. The nine-layered pagoda was about to collapse. The instant the nine-layered pagoda collapsed, Mu Chen would be completely revealed. With his physique, it was clearly impossible for him to resist such a frightening impact. Would it be game over for him just like this? Mu Chen bit his lips, a sweetness was spreading out from the corner of his mouth. Within his black pupils, a deep unresigned intent flashed across his black pupils. If he couldn't withstand this attack, doesn't that mean that he could not be compared to Shen Sangsheng and Li Xiantong? If he couldn't even be compared to them, then on what basis does he have to tell Luo Li that he could become an unrivaled expert to guard her? Rumble. The nine-layered pagoda was crumbling, layer after layer. The black-colored nine-layered pagoda was constantly showing cracks as the lightning passed through the pagoda, and was shocking the body of the youth within the pagoda. At this moment, the latter appeared frail. Another layer crumbled as the youth abruptly raised his head. Within his black pupils, a look full of unswerving determination that couldn't be shaken could be seen. He clenched both of his palms as eyes became bloodshot. A sound that was filled with a deep fighting roar resounded from his throat. His deep roar resounded within this tattered nine-layered pagoda. His unswerving determination made an impact with this pagoda. As his roar resounded, the pagoda suddenly trembled, as though it was resonating. Mu Chen's firm and determined roar seemed to have roused something. An ancient and old light pattern started to appear on the walls of the pagoda. Those patterns were like ancient lotus as they filled the area with a vast light. The great pagoda art within Mu Chen's body seemed to have been circulating uncontrollably. In the depths of his body, the mysterious black light also burst forth with a dazzling luster. The thing that seemed to have been sealed within the depths of his body had also been activated at this instant. An ancient sound resounded within the nine-layered pagoda and Mu Chen's figure was shrouded by the black light. The originally collapsing nine-layered pagoda instantly burst forth with an ancient light. As the light appeared, the collapsed part of the nine-layered pagoda started to restore itself, bit by bit. The bald old man narrowed his eyes, looking at the majestic lightning river that was flowing against the unmovable nine-layered pagoda. Within the black-colored pagoda, there seemed to be something similar to an ancient black-colored lotus. There were 9 petals on the lotus flower, and it was as though there was a heaven-seizing power in every petal, emitting an endless profound intent. It was as though an ancient and desolate sound was echoing between the heavens and earth. The bald old man's face trembled a little as he muttered, "This is actually the primordial divine pagoda? But if he's someone with the primordial divine pagoda, how could he be here?" A light flashed in the eyes of the bald old man, as though he had seen through the pagoda that Mu Chen sitting in. Fresh blood was covering his entire body and wiggled to form into a blood lotus light pattern on the surface of his body. That blood lotus also had 9 petals. Interesting. Just who exactly is he? To have parents who possess such a primordial bloodline. The bald old man's eyes flashed as the lightning river flowed away from the horizon and floated above the earth once again. And as the lightning river retreated, the huge 9-layered pagoda that was up in the sky turned into a black light and was dissipating, bit by bit. As the 9-layered pagoda dissipated, a figure that was covered in blood instantly fell down from the sky. When the bald old man saw it, his finger flicked and a silver light shot into Mu Chen's body. Thereafter, he swept his sleeves and a gale tossed Mu Chen into the lightning river. You? When the nine Netherbird saw the scene, its face drastically changed. The lightning river contained frightening lightning energy. Even when Mu Chen wasn't conscious, he wouldn't dare to lightly enter the lightning river, not to mention that he's unconscious right now. Rest assured. I don't want him dead. I've previously mentioned a reward, so, naturally, I will keep my end of the deal, the bald old man lightly smiled. Shortly after, he looked towards the nine Netherbird and two of his skinny fingers clenched. A feather that looked like it was made from metal appeared. As his fingers flickered, the feather shot into the body of the nine Netherbird and the latter could not examine what it was. What are you doing? The nine Netherbird was extremely angry. The bald old man was too hateful. I'm a bit friendly with an old monster from your nine Netherbird clan. Therefore, I've sent you a gift. Okay, you can continue to refine the divine lightning beads, but don't disrupt that kid. The bald old man did not make any explanations and showed a faint smile. Thereafter, he lazily stood up and slowly looked towards the far earth. His pace appeared slow, but after a few steps, he had already appeared on the horizon and, thereafter, thoroughly disappeared. The nine Netherbird looked at the direction which he disappeared, but could only clench its teeth inwardly. It worriedly looked at Mu Chen, who was wrapped inside of the lightning river. Thereafter, the nine Netherbird spurt out its black flames, filled the sky and started refining the divine lightning beads. Mu Chen's intent drifted in this darkness. He was so dizzy, it felt like it was never ending. Within the darkness, there seemed to be a black light surging and took form beneath Mu Chen. It seemed to be a fuzzy image of a girl and her palm gently caressed Mu Chen's intent. Under her gentle touch, there was an indescribable softness that fluctuated in Mu Chen's heart. That sensation was similar to a mother's embrace. The warmth made him unable to struggle free. Under the warmth, there was a stream flowing within Mu Chen's body, as though it had soothed the injuries within him. A trace of soberness surged up in his fuzzy state. Mu Chen tried his utmost to widen his eyes and look at that fuzzy and warm figure. However, he still couldn't get a clear glimpse of it. However, the bizarre sensation of a blood bond made him understand that he had some kind of relationship with that warm figure. In his childhood dreams, it was that figure that guarded him. Mother. Mu Chen tried his best to struggle and shortly after, he widened both of his eyes. His palm clawed towards that figure, but grabbed nothing but air. He opened both of his eyes and what he saw was a bright silvery light. Mu Chen still couldn't even react to the situation but bore the urge to scream. The violent lightning energy was like steel barbs as it flowed over him. Thereafter, it flocked into his body. The lightning energy was way too violent and, therefore, as it rushed in, it had directly caused intense pain to Mu Chen. His muscles around his body started to twitch. Just when Mu Chen was at loss because of this, there was a faint silvery light being emitted from within his body. Under the shine of the silver light, Mu Chen's body was like a starving person seeing food, and started to violently devour the lightning energy. That intense pain instantly surged in a violent manner. Mu Chen clenched his teeth as a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. There was something that had suddenly appeared in his heart. It seemed to be a thunder god physique deity tier spiritual art. Was it left behind by that bald old man? The thought flashed through Mu Chen's heart and shortly after, he started to train under the influence of the deity tier spiritual art. When he circulated that art, he saw the insides of his body turning silver. As lightning flickered, his entire body, including his muscles, internal organs, meridians and bones, was endlessly devouring the lightning energy within his body. And under the frantic devouring process, although Mu Chen still felt intense pain within his body, the fulfilling feeling of energy had surged up. The pain was comfortable and the feeling was bizarre. Mu Chen didn't know how powerful the thunder god physique that was left behind by the bald old man was, but he could clearly sense his physique becoming more and more powerful. It seemed to be a physique cultivating deity tier spiritual art. This made Mu Chen a little surprised. Among spiritual arts, physique cultivating were the rarest. And, right now, the reward that was given by the bald old man wasn't just any physique cultivating spiritual art, but a deity tier 1 at that. A spiritual art that could absorb lightning energy to refine one's body. Although that old man's methods are ruthless, he wasn't petty. Mu Chen muttered to himself. Shortly after, he didn't dare to be distracted and cultivated this physique-cultivating deity art with all his heart. This cultivation continued for an entire 3 days of time. Within these 3 days of time, Mu Chen's body was soaked in the depths of the lightning river, endlessly refining himself, again and again, with the lightning energy. Furthermore, while Mu Chen was being refined by the lightning energy, the thunder god physique was constantly gathering the lightning energy around him and formed into a lightning ball. Mu Chen did not absorb this lightning ball, but allowed it to circulate within his meridians, refining his meridians bit by bit, causing his meridians to be tougher. This bizarre cultivation technique made Mu Chen feel a bit surprised. Shortly after, he could sense how extraordinary this thunder god physique was. However, when he was practicing the art, he could feel a flaw. Clearly, this thunder god physique must be an incomplete spiritual art. That bald old man did not gift him the entire cultivation technique of the thunder god physique. Although this made Mu Chen feel a little regret, he wasn't too disappointed. It was already out of his expectations to acquire such a good harvest. 3 days later. At the edge of the lightning river, the black flames that had covered the horizon were withdrawing. The nine-nether bird issued a clear cry and drew them back into its body. On top of its head, the silvery river flowed as it floated. Within the powerful current, there was a large amount of divine lightning beads flickering with lightning energy. From just looking at it, there was at least more than 10,000. After refining all of these divine lightning beads, the nine-nether bird looked towards the river with concern. However, it did not spot anything unusual. It was a little anxious and, shortly after, it flapped its wings and rushed into the river to search for Mu Chen. Bang! However, just when it was about to charge in, a surge of lightning soared up into the heavens, sweeping out with a tyrannical spiritual energy. The lightning river exploded and a figure appeared on the horizon. For a brief moment, lightning was flickering on that figure before it started to gradually disappear. In the end, Mu Chen's figure appeared. The current Mu Chen's skin had a faint silver color. On his body, there was an explosive energy that was contained that could not be underestimated. Mu Chen clenched his fist before throwing 2 fists out. Instantly, the air exploded. This caused joy to fill his eyes. Compared to several days before, he had indeed grown much stronger. Not bad. Mu Chen praised. After the lightning dissipated from his body and he was restored to normal, he smiled with his eyes narrowed, while landing towards the direction that the nine-nether bird was at. Are you all right? When the nine-nether bird saw Mu Chen come out, it also felt relieved. Mu Chen shook his head, then was looking around, searching for the bald old man. His long gone. When the nine-nether bird saw Mu Chen's gaze, it spoke out. I wonder who that senior was, to have such ability. Even in the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, he should be among the top levels, right? Mu Chen muttered. Who knows? The nine-nether bird, however, wasn't bothered about that matter. Forget it. Having no answers, Mu Chen tossed that thought to the back of his head. He looked at the tens of thousands of divine lightning beads that were hovering in the sky, and a smear of shock flashed across his eyes. With so many divine lightning beads, it should be enough. His hand swept and all of the divine lightning beads were stored by him. Let's go, we should get going as well. Mu Chen stretched his body. The harvest that he had obtained on this trip to the lightning territory had far surpassed his expectations. Not only did his cultivation grow to quasi-heavenly transformation stage, he even obtained spiritual arts like the dragon soaring art and the thunder god physique, which gave great perks to his combat abilities. Right now, no matter how thorny the opponents that he will encounter in the hunting war, he was confident in confronting them. Li Xiantong, we if meet again, perhaps the pact of 3 moves will no longer be of any use. Mu Chen smiled. Several months ago, Li Xiantong was an opponent that was tough for him to win against. But now, Mu Chen no longer feared him. Let's go and get your Northern Sea Dragon's blood essence. Your wish can finally be fulfilled. Mu Chen waved his hand as he smiled. Thanks. The nine-nether bird looked at Mu Chen and said with a low voice. Unconcealable joy was showing in his eyes. The Nine Nether Bird had finally waited for this day. This relationship of ours. Mu Chen smiled with his eyes narrowed as he looked at the Nine Nether Bird, sizing it up as he rubbed his chin. If your evolution succeeds and you transform into a divine beast, you should possess the ability to take human form, right? At that time, he should be able to finally differentiate its gender, right? And Mu Chen had always maintained his curiosity on this point. The Nine Nether Bird rolled its eyes at him and no longer paid any attention to him. The Nine Nether Bird turned into a black light and burrowed into Mu Chen's body. Mu Chen smiled as his figure moved, turning into a light image as he flew towards the exit of the lightning territory at lightning speed. After half an hour, Mu Chen returned to the first level and exited the lightning territory. After coming out of the lightning territory, he stood on the air and looked at the lively Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. His tensed-up body also gradually relaxed. When Mu Chen exited the lightning territory, he did not head for the freshman area, but to the Spiritual Value Hall. He could sense the excitement within the Nine Nether Bird. Since that's the case, then Mu Chen had decided to fulfill his promise. The Spiritual Value Hall had the highest popularity in the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. The frightening amount of people was like ants, constantly coming out and going in of the hall. When Mu Chen entered the Spiritual Value Hall, he headed towards the center of the main hall, where the trading of divine lightning beads was held. Behind the huge crystal counter, there was a beautiful lady whose age should be roughly the same as the students of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. However, helping out here can also obtain spiritual value points as payment. There was a decent amount of people purchasing divine lightning beads. After queuing up for more than 10 minutes, it was finally his turn. The beautiful girl looked at Mu Chen as she sweetly smiled. "Hi there, you buying divine lightning beads?" "Nope, I'm here to sell them." Mu Chen shook his head. When the lady heard his declaration, she couldn't help feeling curious. However, there were many students that condensed divine lightning beads to exchange for spiritual value points. Shortly after, she faintly smiled as she inquired, "The trading price of divine lightning beads is 200 spiritual value points for one. How many are you selling?" She took up a brush and was prepared to record it down. 13,000, Mu Chen smiled brilliantly. The brush in the lady's hand fell as her beautiful face was filled with astonishment. All of the students that were queuing up for their turn to purchase divine lightning beads were also dumbfounded as they looked at Mu Chen. 13,000 divine lightning beads? Was this kid's head clamped by a door? Were divine lightning beads so easy to condense? 13,000 was an amount that not even Shen Sangshan could condense. When Mu Chen saw the doubts in the eyes of the lady, he did not bother to explain any further, but made a simple action of flicking his fingers. A brilliant silvery light started to flow out and instantly filled the surrounding counters. "Senior sister, 13,000 divine lightning beads for a total of 2,600,000 spiritual value points." "Thanks." Within the Spiritual Value Hall, the bustling hall seemed to have quietened down in an instant. The dumbfounded gazes stared at the silvery current. Tens of thousands of divine lightning beads. They've never seen anyone take such a huge amount out in one go before. Within the lightning territory, condensing divine lightning beads wasn't an easy task. Many people could only harvest around 10 beads a day. Furthermore, they still had to forsake the time that they could use to cultivate. 10 of thousands, if this was a task given to them to accomplish, even if they didn't rest, it would take an endless amount of time. Furthermore, 13,000 divine lightning beads was equivalent to 2,600,000 spiritual value points. It was an enormous sum that could be used to purchase a high-rank spiritual artifact or even a quasi-deity tier spiritual art from the Spiritual Value Hall. The eyes that were staring at the large sum of divine lightning beads had envy flickering in their eyes. But, fortunately, this was shown in the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. If he was somewhere else in the Northern Heavens continent, Mu Chen's way of revealing his wealth would definitely attract a lot of trouble to himself. Clearly, he was well aware of this issue, which was why he revealed it here. The beautiful lady that was behind the counter recovered herself as she glanced at Mu Chen with amazement in her eyes. She clearly didn't know how he was able to obtain such a lump sum of divine lightning beads. Fortunately, she was intelligent and did not ask that many questions. She took out a mustard seed bracelet, and as a light flickered, she stored all of the divine lightning beads within it. Indeed, 13,000 beads. She slightly checked and nodded her head. Shortly after, she added as she smiled, "Dear student, I don't have the authority to process such a huge transaction. I'll go and get the teacher in charge." Mu Chen nodded his head. The lady turned around and left. After a short while, she returned with a middle-aged man, whom Mu Chen assumed was the teacher in charge here. The teacher in charge also gave Mu Chen a glance of astonishment. Even for himself, this was the first time that he had seen a student capable of taking out over 10,000 divine lightning beads. "Pass me your spiritual value card," the teacher in charge lightly smiled. Although he was amazed, the teacher in charge did not lose his composure, unlike the other students. Mu Chen faintly smiled in reply as he handed his spiritual value card over. The teacher in charge received it and also retrieved a spiritual value card from his sleeve. A streak of light flashed into Mu Chen's card and he returned it back to Mu Chen. Mu Chen cast a glance at the spiritual value card and saw 7,100,000 spiritual value points. This made him feel relieved. His hard work, after so long, finally paid off. "Thanks." He suppressed his impatience as he thanked the teacher in charge, but he did not accept the spiritual value card. He smiled gently. "I'm afraid that I have to trouble teacher again. I wish to purchase an item." "What is it?" the teacher asked with a smile. "The Northern Sea Dragon's blood essence." Mu Chen smiled in return. The teacher in charge's hand that was holding onto the spiritual value card trembled as he casted his glance at Mu Chen in astonishment. The Northern Sea Dragon's blood essence that cost 7 million spiritual value points. This was the most expensive item among their spiritual value point items, and, after all of these years, he had yet to see any student capable of purchasing this item. "Follow me." The teacher in charge waved his hand and moved towards the back. When Mu Chen saw the teacher walking, he immediately followed up. Behind him, many students did not clearly hear what Mu Chen wanted to purchase. But, after looking at the teacher in charge's expression, they could guess that it wasn't an ordinary item that Mu Chen was buying. This caused curiosity to raise within their hearts. Mu Chen, however, paid no attention to their curiosity as he followed the teacher into a small chamber. The latter walked into the inner chamber and, after a long time, he swept his sleeve and, as a light flickered, a crystal ball that was roughly the size of a human's head appeared in his hand. Inside the crystal ball, there was a lump of golden liquid that was wiggling about with life, emitting a bizarre fluctuation. Even with the isolation of the crystal ball, Mu Chen could detect the fearsome energy contained in that lump of golden blood. This was the genuine strength of the divine beasts. Divine beasts are existences comparable to sovereigns. This is the blood essence of the Northern Sea Dragon, an item belonging to Lord Northern Sea. The teacher in charge was also amazed as he looked at the golden blood and spoke with revere. Mu Chen nodded his head. This Lord Northern Sea that the teacher spoke of should be the Northern Sea Dragon itself. This blood essence is priced at 7 million spiritual value points and I've already deducted it from your spiritual value card. The teacher in charge returned the card over to Mu Chen and the original 7,100,000 only had 100,000 left, which made Mu Chen helpless. He had turned poor in an instant before he even warmed those 7 million spiritual value points with his hand. "Now, this blood essence of the Northern Sea Dragon belongs to you," the teacher in charge smiled. Although he was curious about why Mu Chen wanted to purchase the blood essence, he clearly knew that he couldn't inquire about such personal matters. "Thanks, teacher." Mu Chen took the spiritual value point card and stored the blood essence of the Northern Sea Dragon into the mustard seed bracelet. He made a bow to the teacher and took his leave. The teacher in charge looked at Mu Chen's leaving silhouette and went into silence, turned around and left. This matter with the Northern Sea Dragon's blood essence wasn't small, therefore, he had to report this matter to the higher-ups of the academy. After coming out of the spiritual value hall, Mu Chen looked at the flow of people and inquired in his head, while looking up at the sky, "You'll be able to evolve now that we've obtained the blood essence of the Northern Sea Dragon. How can it be that easy? I still have to undergo the tribulation. That black heavenly lightning tribulation. Mu Chen's eyelids could not help twitching. Back then, when he first saw the Nine Netherbird, the latter was undergoing this tribulation. However, the latter had failed and, henceforth, Mu Chen knew how frightening this tribulation was. Shredding the spiritual and turning divine, this has always been the most important step of our spiritual beast's cultivation route. Therefore, it won't be so easy. I have already failed this step twice and, this time, by borrowing the power of this Northern Sea Dragon's blood essence, I have a great amount of confidence this time round, the Nine Netherbird said solemnly. Mu Chen quietly nodded his head. Now that he had established a bloodline bond with the Nine Netherbird, they are simple of one body. If they thrive, they'd thrive together, and if they failed, they'd fail together. If anything went wrong with the Nine Netherbird, he would also suffer a grave blow. Therefore, he naturally wished for the Nine Netherbird to succeed in the tribulation. Adjust yourself to your best during these next 2 days. You can also draw my spiritual energy. Thereafter, we'll look for a place and start the tribulation, said Mu Chen. In the Aura Sea, the Nine Netherbird nodded its head as a look of gentleness flashed through its eyes. It could sense the concern that was coming from Mu Chen's heart. Mu Chen spoke nothing else as he headed back to the freshman area. By the time he returned, he had undoubtedly attracted the excitement of the Goddess Luo Association's members. In this period of time, the news of Mu Chen entering into the 8th level of the Lightning Territory had spread throughout the entire Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy since long ago. This made many students startled. This freshman seemed to be able to accomplish an unexpected feat in several intervals at a time. Mu Chen spoke and laughed with everyone for a brief moment, before returning to his small building. However, he did not see Luo Li. The latter had probably left to cultivate, which made him smile bitterly. That girl was still working so hard with her cultivation. However, when he thought of the responsibility that Luo Li had to bear, Mu Chen's mind was also heavy. He could sense that Luo Li might not be able to remain by his side for much longer. She was the next empress of the Luotian clan, and she had too much to prepare. But, right now, his strength was still too weak, so he could not provide her with any help. Standing on the small building, Mu Chen looked at the vast starry sky and lightly breathed out a mouthful of air. He still had a long way to go, but, fortunately, he should still have some time left. During the next couple of days, Mu Chen did not go out but remained in the building to cultivate, and made preparations for the Nine Netherbirds' tribulation. Although the Nine Netherbird could only depend on itself for the tribulation, Mu Chen also wished to provide the Nine Netherbird with strength as well. And during these 2 days, the Nine Netherbird did not make any movements as it was quietly condensing its strength, preparing to challenge the tribulation that it had failed twice now. Due to their preparations, the 2 days rapidly flew by. After 2 days, Mu Chen flew out of the freshman's area and flew out of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. At the outside range, there was an endless range of mountains. This place was far from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, and having the tribulation here should keep anyone from interfering. Mu Chen flew out for nearly half an hour until he was far away from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, before his speed slowed down. Thereafter, he landed on a mountain. Although there were spiritual beasts around this mountain range, there were many powerful spiritual energy fluctuations. Henceforth, this was a pretty good place for the tribulation. Mu Chen landed on a mountain peak. Before he could speak, black flames surged on his shoulder and a small sparrow flickered out. It looked at the sky, full of determination and pride in its eyes. Mu Chen's hand clenched and the crystal ball containing the blood essence of the Northern Sea Dragon appeared. The golden blood was slowly wiggling inside, emitting a powerful energy. Shall we start? Mu Chen looked at the Nine Netherbird. The Nine Netherbird nodded and, shortly after, it breathed black flames from its mouth, shrouding the crystal ball and swallowed it into its body. Its figure flashed out as it soared into the horizon. Thereafter, the black flames swept out, as a clear and resonant cry resounded between the heavens and earth. As the black flames spread throughout the horizon, the Nine Netherbirds' small body also started to expand. In just several breaths of time, a pair of blazing black-flamed wings had spread out to the point that they could almost cover the mountain. Mu Chen raised his head. This was the second time that he had witnessed the Nine Netherbird reveal its real body. Under the influence of the Northern Sea Dragon's blood essence, all of the injuries that the Nine Netherbird had suffered were completely healed, and, in addition, it even made the Nine Netherbird more powerful. The Nine Netherbird issued a cry towards the horizon as frightening spiritual energy ripples swept out. That powerful pressure filled everything between the heavens and earth. Rumble. When the Nine Netherbird unleashed its energy without any restraints, frightening ripples started to gather into the nine heavens. There were lumps after lumps of black thunder clouds being formed that contained enough power to annihilate anything. Mu Chen's gaze turned grave. The tribulation had finally started. This video will end here.